folks, what's up? All right, so I've been thinking about changing my intro for some of these from coding with Kent to, I don't know, hanging out with Kent or something, because I'm not going to be coding for this live stream. This is another editing an egghead video, which may not be the content you're here for, but it is the content I need to create. And the reason that I do it on camera and live stream it is just because you all hold me accountable. So you don't have to watch. You can close this if you're not interested in watching me work in ScreenFlow and stuff. But it's just so much easier for me to hold myself accountable and not like go over to Twitter. And I've tried like the Focus. There's this app called Focus where you can disable certain apps and stuff like that. And that works pretty well for me. But I don't know. It's just more fun when I have people like, or I know that this is going to be recorded for posterity. And I don't mind people asking me questions as I go too. It's kind of fun. So with that, let me, I just realized that my camera is pointed kind of difference chopping off my head, but I think it should be okay. Yeah, let's jump into this. So yeah, I think I made my video a little bit smaller. Kidding. Something like that. That's probably better. Okay, cool. So here I am in ScreenFlow. I've recorded a bunch of lessons. These are for the beginner's guide to React, and I'm just doing an update to that course. It's going to be awesome. I've added a couple concepts that I didn't talk about before. The next video I need to record is number 20, dynamic forms. But my kids are making noise and stuff, so I can't reliably record without having their background noise. So this is why I do editing when the kids are making noise, and I do recording when they're gone or they're being really quiet or something. So, or like it's nighttime. So anyway, I have recorded like up to 19 of them, and now I'm just going through and editing some of these. So yeah, so that's what's going on here. One thing that I changed is I added a lesson after I recorded a couple of these. And so the 04 right here is no longer accurate. It's now 05. And it wouldn't be that big of a deal to make it wrong. You know, like people might be a little bit confused, but it won't impact their learning or anything. But I know I will get many questions about it. And so to avoid those questions, I created this. Whoops. I just took a screen share of my screen with the right thing up, and then I cut this or crop this down to just the part that I want people to see, or yeah, to like what it should say. And then I'm going to drag that and just place it on top of this, because my mouse never goes over that, so it's fine. So anyway, at the very end, I'm going to put all that together. But let's go ahead and get through some of this. Now, it just occurred to me that I may not be able to hear. Let's say that instead of rendering, yeah, you can hear it, but I can't hear it. And I know that I had this working at one point, and now it's not working. So let me spend just a second figuring out why this isn't working. And yeah, and then we can move ahead. So you're going to be hearing, actually, you know what? I'll just mute that on your end so you don't hear this while I'm playing around with this stuff. So I should be hearing this right now, but I am not. And I can see that it's doing stuff. It's coming right through ScreenFlow. And I thought that this monitors thing would make it so that it actually like comes out of my speakers, but that doesn't appear to be the case. So let me just change my, here, actually, let's just do sound. We'll change my output to, I don't know, computer sounds, no. No, that's the output I want. So yeah, that's interesting. Maybe if I do, no, that Telestream audio capture is for my, for ScreenFlow, actually. Okay, that's interesting. So now I can hear this through my MacBook Pro speakers. There's not, yeah, delete this. It's interesting. When I turn off pass-through, it disappears from here. Fascinating. If I turn this off, oh yeah, OBS is using it. That won't work. Huh. I know that I had this working one time. I showed it to you. Okay, so we're gonna go, just move this out of the way. Loop back, system or all sources. And then we're back to strong loop. Loopback is actually a node framework that strong loop was working on. I don't know if they're still working on it. This was years ago. Okay, loopback, can't hear from monitor. Well, this looks promising. If only I could actually hear this. Let's go back to my, I'll turn this off. Okay. And pause this. That I don't think is what I need. That's some other thing. Loop back. Yeah, they make loopback. I think that was about audio hijack. Okay. Okay, this might help. Monitor audio. Yeah, that's not gonna do it. It's weird, like when I toggle this, I can hear it for just like a split second. Okay, let me let's go to Suze Hinton stream audio setup something. Okay. He does a bunch of elaborate stuff. All right. This is the worst. I despise Medium so much. Okay, loop back. What she has is this, but then I think she does not want to hear what is happening on yeah, I do not want to hear the music, but I do want to hear computer error sounds. Okay. Okay, so she uses MIDI stuff, and I think that I'd done that before. Or yeah, audio MIDI setup. Here. Get over here, and then we've got multi-output device. And this is going to go to my dock and computer sounds. Okay, maybe that'll do it. And we're going to go to, it looks like I can't control the volume, which is a problem. And it looks like it also isn't working anyway. So your speakers, I think, is just like position. Reconnect or drift connect. I have no idea. Maybe I should have done this before I started the stream, because like it's worked before. That's the weird thing. Yeah, I don't know. 0 ins, 2 outs. Oh, okay. So the input. Yes. Well, golly gee. It's not going to be very interesting if you can't also hear like it. I mean, it's not that interesting as it is to just watch me edit videos, but it would be like ridiculously uninteresting if you can't at least hear this stuff. So, whoa. Okay, that was weird. I'm glad that you couldn't hear that. Huh. Okay, well, that didn't work. I was able to hear something, but it wasn't what I think I want to hear. Okay, let's bring this back so I got some sound going on. Here, whoops. Okay. Well, that didn't help. And in OBS, I've got computer sounds, and we'll go to computer sounds. There we go. Okay, I'm pretty sure that is good. Check the checkbox for monitor audio through. What year is this? 2018? Yeah, that's weird. It works. I can hear it through my MacBook Pro speakers. I just can't hear it through this. Here, let's delete that and make it over again. Oh, it works. Oh my goodness. All right. 2 elements. Yeah, how do you put two variables side by side and pass them both as the first argument? We're running now. It's impossible. And so this is why the React team has a special... Okay, cool. Welcome to my stream after a few minutes of streaming. I finally got that worked out. Sorry about that. I don't know what was broken. I don't think anything was broken. So yeah, I mean, something was broken, but nothing... I don't think I did anything wrong. I think it was just a bug. But yeah, let's go ahead and edit this video. We're going to learn about React fragments. Let's say that, so let's first do this. So I just want to make sure that where I start is actually where I start, and it is. So I'm going to start editing right here. Let's say that instead of rendering a div with a constant container and then hello world, we wanted to render two spans side by side. I'm going to have a little snack as I work through this. Okay, here we go. Oh, wow. I just got two colors of these fruit snacks. I eat all of the same color at the same time. Delicious. One that says hello and the other that says world. So let's first do this with React create element, and then we'll see how we can do this with JSX. So I'm going to make my element, and this is going to be... Actually, no, we can't do this with React create element without learning about fragments. Yeah, I made a bit of a mistake in the way I wanted to approach teaching that. Oh, no, that actually works. So we'll make our element, create element, and then we'll see how we can do this with JSX. So I'm going to make my element, so we'll make our element, and this is going to be React dot. So I'm going to make my element. So I'm going to make my element React dot create element. I've got a screamer. Screaming this with JSX. So I'm going to make my element React dot create. And then we'll move that over. Sometimes I can't quite get that. Create element, and then we'll see how we could do this with JSX. So I'm going to make my element React dot create element span, and we don't need any props. Nice span, and we didn't need any. I have that comma right there. Element span, and we don't need any props. And then we'll say hello, and we'll need another element. We'll call this hello, and we'll need another element. We'll call this our world element. And let's call this one our hello element. And this one will say world. And then we need to render those side by side. I don't know how we do that. Side by side. Side. I don't know how we do that. Let's say hello elements. I had to fix my typing several times. Well, nobody wants to watch me fix my typing several times. Whoa. Okay, so that's what I want the video. Right here and right here. Make that go away, but I want to keep that audio. So we'll snatch that. This over. Let's say hello elements and world. Let's say hello. Freeze frame that thing. Match it out, and there we go. Let's say hello elements, and we'll want to move that over a little bit. We'll freeze frame just for a second, and we'll freeze frame this one. There we go. Say hello elements and world element. No, that's not going to work. Oh shoot, I'm on the wrong page. Oh yeah, whoops. I was on the wrong page. Yeah, I've got a boy over here who is really upset. Got one son who just, when he gets mad, he gets super mad, and he is there right now. Takes him a little bit to just, all right, let's just have you sit for a little bit. Calm down. No, that's not going to work. Oh shoot, I was on the wrong page. No, it doesn't look like that's going to work very well. And world. No, that's not going to work. And world element. No, it doesn't look like that's going to work very well. Yeah, how do you put two elements? Yeah, how do you put work very well. Yeah, how do you put two variables side by side and very well? Yeah, how do you put two variables side by side and pass them both as the first argument? Well, it's impossible. And so this is why the React team has a special No. Well, it's impossible. Whoa, whoops. And so this is why well, the first argument. Well, it's impossible. But if we were to do this in HTML, it would be pretty straightforward. We'd just say span hello and span world, and that would work just fine. Yeah, rats. I don't want to save that. Yeah. Take. I'm going to get rid of both of those. Save that. And I want to get back to. Oh yeah, man, this is the worst when I make a mistake, and so I back up further from where like I've already edited a bunch of stuff, and I gotta decide whether I should keep what I had before or not. Actually, no, this is fine right here. World, and that would work just fine. Span hello. Span world, because it flashed hello world and then it went to hello, and I don't want to have to explain the reason that once React got I think I was live streaming when I was doing this one that got updated, so I don't want to. So this is straight. That would work fine. Yeah, fine. World, and that would work just fine. So this is straightforward to do in. Yeah, would work fine. Rats. See, now it's white on the right side. That was a mistake. Rats. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. Oh no, that was right. And that would. Oh, that's fine. Here we go. World, and that would work just fine. So this is straightforward to do in HTML, but it's actually not possible to do. But it's actually not possible to do. But it's actually not possible to do with React, which is why the React and span world. And that's fine. This is straightforward to do in HTML, but it's actually to do in HTML, but it's Sometimes my words run together and it kind of makes it hard to edit in HTML, but it's actually not possible in HTML, but it's actually not possible to do with React. That's actually not possible to do with React. It's actually not possible to do with React. But it's actually not possible to do with React. You like this? That's good. Thanks, George. Like I said, it's mostly for me, but I guess there are 11 people watching right now. And people will watch it. 153 playbacks. That's fun. Thanks for watching. Keeping me accountable. If you ever notice me just like stop and like look on this screen for a while, probably because I'm on Twitter. Just tell me, Kent, stop. Of course, if I'm on Twitter on this screen, then I'm not going to see your comments anyway. So I don't know what to do about that. Maybe just have a little bit more self-control with React, which is why the React team created a special type of element called a React fragment. And the React fragment is a special type of element that you pass to create element API. Oops. Sometimes I accidentally, when I hit delete, I accidentally hit the plus. And if you hit that with command, which is what I normally hit delete with, it zooms it. With React, which is why the React team created a special type of element called a React fragment. And the React fragment is a special type of element. Which is why the React team created a special type of element called a React fragment. And the React fragment is a special type of fragment. And the React fragment is a special type of element that you pass to the create element API. So we can say a React. All of those words seemed like too much filler. Pass to the create element API. It's called a React fragment. And the React fragment a React fragment. So we can say react.create element. React fragment is the type. And then we don't need any. So we can say react.create element. React fragment is the type, and then we don't need any props for it. And then we can provide both of our children. So let's put this down here. We'll take our hello element, pass that as the first child, and world element, pass that as the second child. And then this is going to get our element that we're going to render. And with that, we have, I need that all to speed up. Yeah, we'll just speed up that video. And then this is going to get our element that we're our element. That we're going to render. Our element that we're going to render. And with that, well, I should just fix the typo. That'll speed it up quite a bit. Render. And then we can speed this up. Yeah, Ramus. Are you reading a script when you record these videos? Nope, I am not. I have just taught this stuff so many times. And like, yeah, I don't know. I tried reading a script, there were some, but it just felt very made up. It's going to get our element that we're going to render. And with that, we have the output that we're expecting. And we could also add an extra element, and we could also add an extra child in here. There's add an extra element. And we could also add an extra output that we're expecting. And we could also add an extra child. And what we're going to do here is I'm going to turn off that cursor, the mouse pointer, expecting. And we could also add an extra child in here. And we'll just move this over just a touch. And that, but that we're expecting. And we could also add an extra child in here to give us an extra. I'll move it over even further. Expecting. And we could also add an extra child in here to give us an extra space. Here's what I want. Boom. Okay. All right. And we'll get on. Boom. Output that we're expecting. And we could also add an extra child in here to give us an extra space. But again, nobody wants to use the React Create Element API directly, so let's comment this out and see what this would look like if we wanted to do it with JSX. So our root element, this one was tricky because I hadn't yet taught how to make custom components yet, so I hadn't explained that you need to have a capital letter or a dot, or there are various rules for using JSX, so that the create element compilation will use a reference to a variable rather than a string. So I think I probably fumbled on this, and I'm going to have to edit that quite a bit. And see what this would look like if we wanted to do it with JSX. So our root element is this React fragment. So we'll say React. So we'll do an open bracket and say React.fragment. And we'll close that off with React fragment. And then everything we put in between here, and then we'll want to create a span for hello. So span hello, span. And then we'll do a space, and then span world, and close that off. And if we save this, we're going to get the exact same output. And we're using our React fragment element. Now let's take a look at the compiled JSX here. And you'll notice that we get our element with React create element, and it's just passing React.fragment. And it's just passing React.fragment as the first argument to React create element, whereas these, the tag name is being passed as a string. The reason that's happening is because, I'm not sure if I want to explain that right now. Yeah, right there. I remembered. I'm not sure if I want to explain that right now. I didn't think about this, but that's okay. The reason that's happening is because the first character, no, I'm not going to explain right now. There's actually lots of reasons for this, so I think I can chop it off from wherever it was and start something new, so. Good. Sorry, I pulled the microphone away so that you wouldn't hear me doing this. Actually, you don't hear me doing that because I have a noise gate in OBS, and I guess me chewing isn't loud enough. Nice. So the React fragment allows us let's look at this. Here we go. Sweet. So the React fragment allows us to group. Great. And we're using our React fragment element here. And actually, I think I do want to have it. I'm not sure if I want to. And it's just passing React.fragment as the first argument to React create element, whereas these, the tag name is being passed as a string. The reason that's happening is because, and I don't want to explain the reason that's happening. I'll explain it in the next video. The React fragment allows us to group the React fragment. So the React fragment allows us to group. So the React fragment allows us to put elements side by side. Okay, but let's go back here and tighten this up, because I paused too much and I backtrack and whatnot. Whoa. So our root element is this React fragment. So our root element with JSX. So our root element is this React fragment. Stem element. The root element is this. All right, this is the worst, but I would just don't want people just waiting around for me to do stuff like that. Have that sped up so that it's X. So our root element is this React fragment. So we'll say React. So we'll do an open. So we'll do an open bracket. So we'll say React fragment. So we'll do an open bracket. So we'll do an open bracket and say React.fragment. Fragment. And we'll close that off with React fragment. And then everything all that can go away. Fragment. And then everything we put in between here, say, and then we'll want to create a and then yeah, I like some of the video for this. Here, chop that. Wait, he is still moaning. I'm sure that he's fine. And then we'll want to. By the way, my wife is out there. I wouldn't just like leave my kids to moan without addressing it first and seeing what's wrong. But my wife's out there. She's taking care of it. And we have an agreement where if she needs me, then she won't have any problem coming to ask for help. And so, yeah. Anyway, I'm a good dad. And sometimes if it's like so bad, I will still go out even without my wife asking, because sometimes you're not in a situation you can ask for help. And then we'll want to create a span for hello. So span, hello, span. Okay, so all of this stuff needs to happen faster. So span. Move this a little bit. Move this over. Go ahead and delete that. These together. Let's see this fragment. And then we'll want to create a span for hello. So span, hello, span. Hello, span. And then we'll do a space. And then span, world. Hey there, Wahid. Okay. Things are getting a little intense over there. I'm going to go check it out. I'll be right back. yeah, that was my boy. Really, really upset over this. We had this chest of bins, plastic bins, and we got him something new, and he kind of destroyed that chest of bins anyway, so we were gonna give it away or throw it away or something. But he had a bunch of stickers that he'd put on it, and he really wanted those, and he was just not not happy. And so my wife was gonna give it to him, like, here, okay, you can have the one that has all the stickers on it. But then he threw a big fit and said that he wanted all of them, and he started kicking and stuff. So my wife's like, okay, you're gonna get none of these things, and so now he's like super mad. It is sad, but when you throw a tantrum, there are consequences for that, and that's just too bad. So I don't know what we're gonna do. We'll hopefully learn. Okay, cool. Let's get back to this. We're actually almost done. I think I added something on here. Oh, it was to show the special syntax. So it shouldn't take too much longer. And then we'll do a space, and then span, and we'll do a space of time. We don't need that space of time. Probably could use like an actual mouse to be more precise on when I'm doing these editings. I don't know. Could be helpful. Thanks, Rudolph. I hope you're having a wonderful day as well. And then we'll do a space, and then span, world. And span, world. And close that off. And then if we save this, and close that off. And then if we save this, we're going to get the exact same output, and we're using our React fragment element. Now let's take a look at the compiled JSX here, and you'll notice that we get our element JSX here, and you'll notice that we get our element with React create element, and it's just passing React.fragment, and it's just passing React. Thanks, Gerardo. Yeah, thank you, Gerardo. I'm looking forward to the front-end masters workshop next month too. It's going to be great. React.fragment, and it's just passing React.fragment, and it's just passing React create element, and it's just passing React.fragment, and it's just passing React.fragment as a first argument to React create element, whereas these, the tag name is being passed as a string. So the React fragment allows us to group. So the React passed as a string. So the React fragment allows us. I'm gonna move that. Give us a little bit of space here. String. So the React fragment allows us to put elements side by side without having to have some sort of container element like a div. And this can be really useful when you're creating. And this can be really useful element like a div. And this can be really useful when you're creating things like tables that have a very specific. And this can be really useful when you're creating things like tables that have a very. And this can be really useful when you're creating things. And this can be really useful when you're creating things like tables that have a really specific structure to them. And that's it. Yep, that's all. Nope. Because this is, it wasn't all. To them. Because this is so common, structure to them. Because this is so common, because this is so common to do, JSX has a special syntax to them. Because this is so common to do, JSX has a special syntax for React fragments, and that is to simply remove the React fragment. Change this a bit. How experienced was I when I started teaching? I started teaching as soon as I learned something new. So I was not experienced when I started teaching. So that's something to know. You don't need any experience to start teaching. Just start teaching what you want. How many years as a developer? I had 0 years as a developer when I started teaching. And you can read all about this in my Decade in Review post, which I will show you here. 2010s. I'll paste it right here too. But yeah, so I got home from my mission. I started at BYU. I started getting into programming. I got an internship when I was still at school, and around here is when I started to teach. So it was before I started the full-time job that I got the offer for, that I started teaching. This is when I started speaking. I spoke at Minneapolis. It was my first out-of-state conference. Yeah, the same year I started working. I think my first, let's see, NG Conf. So this was my first conference, was 2014. Oh yeah, yeah. So, and 2014 was the year I graduated from college. And so yeah, that was the first conference I attended. I didn't speak at NG Conf that year, but then I started speaking at meetups and stuff. In fact, I think I may have started. Here, let's find out. Talks. My first talk was about Genie.js at the Utah JS Orem meetup. So this was my first talk right at the beginning of 2014. I hadn't yet graduated from college, so I technically had 0 experience as a professional web developer. So yeah, start teaching now, because you can do it. My first Egghead video was also that year. It was 2014. Fun stuff. Yeah, one of my meetup talks was recorded, and that's when John Lindquist found it. So that was cool. Okay, cool. So moving back here, structure to them. Because this is so common to do, JSX has a special syntax for React fragments, and that is to simply remove the React fragment and have an open and closing bracket. To simply remove the React fragment and have an open and closing bracket. I never select the closing. That's too bad. Open and closing. No. Oh, okay. I think an open and closing curly. Oh, that's right. I said bracket, and it took me like 30 times to say angle bracket. Yeah. As soon as you can start explaining something to anyone, you can be a teacher. And you only get good at that by practicing. So practice. Curly angle. An open and closing angle bracket. And this is functionally equivalent. There we go. An open and closing angle bracket. That took me so long to say. And that is to simply remove the React fragment and have an open and closing bracket. And have an open and closing. And have an open. We'll stop it right there. Cut that. Or yeah. That. Here. Cut that. Bring this back. There we go. And have an open and have an open and have an open and closing angle bracket. And this is functionally equivalent to what we had before. Smooth that over there. Fragment and have an open and closing angle bracket. And this is functionally equivalent. Yeah, I don't need that. This one back here. Open and closing angle bracket. And this closing angle bracket. And this is okay. I'm gonna freeze frame this guy. Open and closing that over here. Up. think I'm misaligned here, so it's here. Here we go. And have that over there. Fragment and have an open and this over. Fragment and have an open and closing angle bracket. And you know what? We remove the reaction. Do this. The highlight. Again, remove the react fragment and have an open and closing angle bracket. And this is functionally equivalent to what we had before. How much time in average do you spend editing your videos? Too much. I probably care too much about the quality of like things not jumping around and just like these little things. Like for example, I just spent 30 seconds or more making sure that my cursor doesn't bounce around as I'm talking with all these edits. People probably don't care that much about that, but I do, I guess. So fragment and have an open and closing angle bracket, and this is functionally equivalent. I really should hire somebody to be my editor, because it'd save me a bunch of time. And actually, Egghead does have an editor that I can use, but they just don't do it the way that I want it done all the time. And I should just be less of a stickler. That's all. What we had before. This syntax is typically what this syntax what we had before. This syntax is typically what I use whenever I need React fragments. To what we had before. This syntax is typically what I use whenever I need React fragments. There we go. An AI could do it? Maybe. Yeah, I mean, eventually the AI will be able to make the whole video. I think that would be a more worthwhile endeavor. But not today. Okay, so we're gonna go to here, Egghead and beginners. Open that thing. Save it there. It's amazing. I'm live streaming and transcoding video and all of this stuff, and check out what my computer's doing with all this. I mean, we're using up a lot of memory. I have 64 gigs of memory, but the CPU's doing fine, and like we're not using all the memory. And then look at that thing. It's just whoop, moving right along. I love this. It's awesome. Okay, so now we're gonna open up number 6. Oh, wrong window. Right there. Okay, cool. So number 6 was custom components. Oh, you know what? I just realized. Cancel this. Cancel. One last thing that I need to do, and that is the file name at the top of the screen was wrong because I added an extra file kind of before. So what I did was I made this little screen capture, and so now check this out. Whoop, whoop. Look at the top right over there. It goes 4 was what it was. Now it's 5. Ha ha ha. Fancy that. Just stick that right there. Boom. Save it and export. Go. Okay. And the reason that Rudolph just said, wow, so much, it's crazy. The reason that I have it is so that I can do this. Yeah, because it's like, it's what I do for my job. So yeah, it is kind of crazy. It's probably certainly more than most people need, but it's what I need to do my job. So sweet. So I love this one because I don't see a whole lot of these breaks, which means that I'm not going to need to edit this one very much. It's great. So here we go. So here we have this div with a class name container, and we have this div with a class name message in here. it says hello world. Let's say that I wanted to have, I don't know, maybe 2 of those. So now we have hello world, and then I don't want to repeat myself, right? So I'm going to make a const message here that is that hello world, and we'll put that in place of here, message. Just interpolate that there, and now I'm not repeating myself, which is good. But okay, that break maybe, which is good. But what if I wanted one? No, that's fine. To say hello world and the other to say goodbye world. Well, we need to parameterize this somehow, and when we do that in JavaScript, we create a function. So I'll make an arrow function here, and we'll accept an object. We'll call it props, and then whatever that props.msg or props.message value is what we'll interpolate into the children. And almost done. Sweet. Prop for this div that we create. So now instead of just putting message in there directly, we're going to call it with a function, with an object. I call it with a function, with an object, and we'll use. We're going to call it with an object, and we'll use MSG. Call it with an object, and we'll use MSG is hello world, and then we'll do this one MSG goodbye. Okay. Okay. Whoops. Goodbye. MSG good. MSG goodbye world. Save that, and we get hello world and goodbye world, which is awesome. But again, this is not really. Which is awesome. But again, this is not really ergonomic. It doesn't look very good. And one of the benefits to using JSX is the ability for our UI to resemble the declarative nature of HTML. So what I'd really like to be able to do is say declarative nature of HTML. So what I'd really like to be able to do is say message here, and then hello world and message. But if I try to do that, you'll notice we actually do get the hello world, but we're going to get a console warning here saying the tag message is unrecognized in its browser. If you meant to render a React component, start its name in uppercase letter. Oh, that's interesting. Thank you very much. So let's learn more about that. If we look at the compiled version of our, if we look at the compiled, let's learn more about that. If we look at the compiled version of our code, we're going to see our message function that's returning a React element. See that? That cursor jump? Most people would say, forget about it. Who cares? But me, I'm going to see if I can make that movement more smooth. So right here is where I stop moving. Let's drag this over and see if they join up. Our code, we're going to see our message function that's returning a React element that's creating a div. And then if we come down here, we're going a div. And then if we come down here, we're going to see a React create element message as a string. So that's problematic because we don't want to have message as a string to create a DOM node. To create a DOM element that is problematic because we don't want to have the message as a string to create message as a string to create a DOM element that is a message type element. We actually want it to use this function so that we can use this function to create additional React elements. We actually use it so that we can type element. We actually want it to use this function. Now we actually want it to use this function. So that's too jumpy. We actually want it to use this. That's got to be over here. We actually want it to use this function so that we can use this function to create additional React elements. I don't think I can make it much better. And so React elements. And so as the warning suggests, React elements. And so as this function to create additional React elements. Right here when I start moving quick, that's a perfect time to make a transition, because if the cursor suddenly jumps over there, they're like, oh, it's just like your brain is like, oh, it's just because it was moving. React elements. And so, as the warning suggests, we need to use an uppercase letter. And so if instead we say capital message, similar to how we were doing with React fragment, then we use capital message here. Then let's make sure we don't. Here, actually, let's just get rid of that fragment. Capital message. Then we use capital message here. Then let's make sure we don't get errors here. So we'll say capital message for these. Then we can save that. And now we're no longer getting that warning. If we look at our compiled code, we're going to see that capital message here. And when we get past to React create element, we're going to get a capital message right here outside of a string. So we're passing out right here outside of a string. So we're passing a reference to the function directly to the React create element call. Reference to the function directly to the React create element call. Create element call. And then if we ultimately look call. And then if we ultimately look at what's rendered to the DOM, we come down here, we see our ID of root, our container, and then we see a div with the class of message. Yeah, it's not rendering hello world in there, and that's because I'm not using the children prop. And I want to explain that later, but I think we'll explain it later. Now let's take a look. When I'm recording, I normally don't talk to myself like that. Sometimes I do a little bit, but I'm pretty sure I was live streaming when I recorded this, which is why I went through that whole explanation for the benefit of you all. A div with the class of message. Now let's take a look at what this, hold on a second, what was that? Oh, now of message. Now let's take a look at what this message component message element really is. That here, we'll move this over. Now let's take a look at what this message element really is. So it's console.log. Speed this up, move this over. Now let's take a look at what this message element really is. So it's console.log. That over here. Go down a little bit more. These things together. Class of message. Now let's take a look at what this message element really is. So it's console.log, that message element. And we'll look at our console, and we'll see that it is a React element, and its type, instead of being a div like we had before, let's take a look at that to compare. Console.log div hello world div. Chop this up. See, this is another time where I'm like, I don't want to make any typos. I think they're distracting. And the thing is, like, when I'm giving a workshop to like 30 people or something, typing those mess ups aren't a really big deal. But when I'm sending this video to thousands and thousands of people, I think that it's worth the time it takes to just chop up these, couple milliseconds, I guess. I don't know. That's what I tell myself. Hello world. Hello world. Hello world. Hello world. Log div hello world div. To compare console.log. Let's take a look at that to compare. Console.log div hello world. And then it also makes me look like I'm super fast. Let's take a look at that to compare. Console.log div hello world. You also edit your workshops before you upload them to front-end masters. I don't, but front-end masters does do some editing. I don't think they do editing quite like this. The thing with front-end masters is because you can see my face on the screen, you can't really chop it out, because if we were to have my face on the bottom corner here, then all of these clip outs would have me going like this all the time, like, and that would be really, yeah, kind of weird. So that's why my egghead stuff doesn't have my face like you see in my live streams. As cool as I think that would be, I'd kind of like that, but no, we can't do that because it would just be, yeah, it would be super unprofessional. So, and I'd have to compensate for it by saying, okay, well, we're just going to make sure that I never make mistakes, and so I don't have to edit anything, but that takes way too long. It's really hard. So instead of being a div like we had before, let's take a look at that to compare. Console.log div hello world. Save that, and we'll get two console logs. So the first one being our div, the type is a string of div, whereas the type here is a function, is our message function. Whereas the type here is our message function. And here we get the props of children hello world message function. And here we get the props of children hello world, and we have children hello world in this one as well. So when you give a capital letter in JSX, that's the same as calling react.createElement with the function that you're referencing. And that allows you to create a custom component. That you can use to reuse code over and over again. So let's go ahead and cut this out, and we'll rewrite this using JSX. So we'll say message, and then use the MSG prop because that's what we're expecting. And then we'll come back here, we'll save that, and everything's working without any errors. And if we look at our any errors. And if we look at our compiled version of our code, then we'll see that we're calling React create element with that message type, with that message function. Create element with that message function. And then if we wanted to make it nice and declarative so that we could nest these things as if it's the children, well then okay, we're going to clean up that video. If we wanted to make it nice and declarative so that we could nest these things as if it's the children prop, well then we just accept children as our prop for the name of the prop, and then we can for the name of as our prop. So we just accept children as if it's the children prop. Well then we just accept as if it's the children prop. Well then we just accept children for the name of the prop, and then we that'll make it look nice. Let's see. As if it's the children prop. Well then we just accept children for the name of the prop, and then we can rename this one to children, and those two are functionally equivalent. So name this one to children, and those one to children, and those two are functionally equivalent. So if we save this, then we'll still get hello world and goodbye. And those two are functionally equivalent. So if we save this, then we'll still get hello world and goodbye world. But honestly, one of those looks a little bit nicer to me, so I'm going to switch both of these to use that syntax. I'm going to switch both of these to use that syntax. And what's cool about this is I'm also able to nest these together and pass anything that React can render these together and pass anything that React can render to the DOM and pass anything that React can render and pass anything that React can render, which includes the string here or additional components here or additional elements here. React can render, which includes the string here or additional components here or additional elements here. And this takes too long to type. I didn't make any errors though, so that's good. That happened a lot faster. Or additional elements here. In review, what we did here was we had some code that was being duplicated, and we in review what we did here was we had what we did here was we had some code that was being duplicated, and we wanted to reuse that code in multiple places. So we created a you see what I just did? I followed it. So I noticed there was a jump right here,
had some code that was being
and so then I took this and I followed it until my cursor starts moving.
So we created a
And I'm hoping that in there my cursor gets to that position, so I don't have to worry about that chop.
code that was being duplicated, and we wanted to reuse that code in multiple places.
I do that all the time. It's
So we created
awesome.
a function component. So we created our own custom function component, which is a function.
Look at how smooth that was. That's awesome.
Our own custom function component.
Right there, just boom, 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 boom. It was like I never stopped moving the mouse, but I actually did.
Own custom function component, which is a function that accepts a props object and returns more React elements. And we had to make sure that our function component started with a capital letter so that Babel would compile this to pass the function itself to React create element rather than the string message to React create element. And that way when React create element. And that way when React renders our component, and that way when React when React renders our element, it knows what function to call. That way when React renders our element, and that way when React renders our element,
that's a bummer. Grab that. Get it to this point. Right there. That there. Move that up. Get rid of that.
Rather than the string message to React create element. And that way when React renders our element, it knows what function to call.
Boom. Beautiful. Let's just grab our title fix now. Notice it's 5656 at the top there. Boom, 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 boom. We'll just grab that and move that over. Save that. Export this to not my blog videos, but the React 2020. Sweet. Get rid of the last one I just saved. And now we're going on to 7. Boy, this is not as fun as recording the videos. But I'll tell you what, it's way more fun when you're all here. So thank you. See you, Rudolph. Sorry, you're probably not watching anymore, but thanks for hanging out. All right, sweet. So, prop types. Here we go. Lots of talking. I see a bunch of things in there. This will be a bit of an edit. Got in total, got 6 minutes and 55 seconds, so 7 minutes. This will probably be about 3 minutes when I'm done. Maybe 4. When you start creating custom function components, I'd actually like some feedback, so I'd
you're going to have
intentionally make the computer sounds quieter than my own voice.
For example, here,
especially since what you're hearing is my own voice, and so distinguishing between what I'm saying now and what the recording is saying is sort of helpful. But let me know if you want me to turn that down or turn it up or anything to make this more enjoyable, or less unenjoyable, I guess, for the 6 of you who are watching. All right, see you later.
When you start creating custom function components, you're going to have people using those function components, and they may not use it quite right. For example, here, we have the say hello that's accepting a props object. We're destructuring it right here. And we're getting a first name and a last name prop and expecting to be able to render those out. But the way that it's being used is we have that first name prop being assigned.
Hey, cool. Thanks, Rudolph. You're awesome. I don't know how much 100 Czech dollars is or whatever that currency is called, but I appreciate it all the same. Much love.
Expecting to be able to render those out. But the way that it's being used is we have that first name prop being assigned to false, and we're not providing the last name prop at all. And so the end result is not exactly what we're looking for. The React team has developed a package called prop type.
Yeah, and I don't think I wanted
that allows you to add runtime validation of the props that are passed to your components.
That was a mistake.
I use that package. This is why React supports.
So to add support for your components. This is why React supports a feature called prop types that allows you to validate the 4 euros. Nice. Thank you. That's like a I don't drink coffee. Is that how much coffee costs? Thank you. That's super nice. Okay, that one finished.
The props that are passed to your components. This is why React supports a feature called prop types that allows you to validate the types of props that are being passed to your components when they're rendered. So to add support for that, we're going to have say
components when they're rendered. So to add support for that, we're going to have say hello.prop types equals this object. Okay, there's a typo. I'm going to want to fix that. Hello.prop types equals this object. And we'll have a key for the prop that we want to validate. And that's going to be a function that takes, I forgot what it takes. I forgot what it took. Because nobody ever uses it this way. But it's important that you learn it this way. Because then you'll understand how it works a lot better. Yeah, see, I went to my old video. I was like, okay, how does this work? And I was like, oh, there it is. Props, prop name, component name. All right, going back.
Props.
Now I can teach it.
It's going to be a function that takes the prop.
It's going to be a function that takes the. I love it, and I just chomped that out, and you have no idea that I spent like the last 60 seconds going to my previous video to make sure that I was going to tell you the right thing. I just think that's so funny. With every single frame, you don't know if the last frame is what actually happened or not. It's so great. That's why I don't have the cursor blinking, so that you can't tell. And like anytime I have something in here that is like, I've got a lesson earlier where I showed a clock. Those are so hard to record because I want to make sure I don't have to make any cuts that are really obvious or anything. So anyway, for the prop that we want to validate, and that's going to be a function that takes the props, the prop name, and the component name.
So in here we can validate. So in here, so anytime name. So anytime and the component name. So anytime our say hello component is rendered, we can check that the first name prop. Anytime our say hello component is rendered, so anytime our say hello. So anytime our say hello component. So anytime our say hello component is rendered. So anytime our say hello component is rendered, we can check that the first name prop was passed properly. And so we can say if, oh come on, where's my autocomplete? Yeah, so I actually think that I disable autocomplete when I am recording videos. I'm gonna check that right now. Because I think I want to enable that. Super annoying. Okay, so when I've got egghead turned on, suggest trigger quick suggestions. It's one of these. I think it's probably quick suggestions. Let's go back over here. Yeah, there it is. Okay, we're gonna bring that back because that is super annoying. Suggest on trigger characters. I don't know what that is, but this is gonna be so much nicer. Holy moly. I don't know why I waited so long to check that. Oh, come on. Where's my autocomplete? Say if. So we can say if. Okay, so my son, who was throwing a big fit earlier, is now doing just fine. He's playing with my other son. They're making a bunch of noise, the way that boys should. Sorry, just grabbing some of these animal crackers. They're delicious. I'm gonna open the window too. I'll be right back. We have somebody pouring concrete right now. I'm so excited for that to be done finally because we got our yard kind of re-landscaped some of it right before the winter hit. They were scheduled to do it earlier, but they couldn't make it and whatever. So we've pretty much been all winter with our backyard kind of halfway done because they couldn't pour the concrete because it started snowing and got too cold. So now they're finally pouring the concrete today. I'm so happy, so excited to not have these like holes in my yard. And we're gonna put a basketball hoop in, or they're putting that in right now. And I'm so excited to be able to shoot hoops with my kids. It's gonna be great. First name prop was passed properly, so we can say if. So we can say if passed properly. So we can say if type of we can say if type of we can say if type of props at prop name is not equal to a string, and so many typos. Equal to a string, then we can return to a string, then we can return a string, then we can return a new error that says, hey, new error that says, hey,
the component name needs the prop name to be a string, but you passed a type of props at prop name. My goodness. We'll just cut it right there. And we can see prop name. And if we save that, and you know what, we're going to do a freeze frame here. Save that. Put that right there, cut right there, move that together, name. And if we save that, hold on, that's name. Need to get it all the way done. Come on. And if we save that, that and that. Oh, whoops. That. There we go. Name. And if we save that, then we can see that warning shows up. Failed prop type. Hey, the component say hello needs the prop first name to be a string, but you passed a boolean. And we could do the same. You passed a boolean. And we could do the same thing for our last name prop. So what I'm going to do is pull this out. We'll create a is pull this out. We'll create a to do is pull this out. We'll create a last name prop here, and I'm going to make a prop types object here where we have a string that is that validator that we just created. And then here we can say first name is prop types dot string and last name is prop types dot string. Last name is prop. And last name is prop types dot string. And last name is prop types dot string. And then we could add a bunch more validators to the prop types for numbers and whatever else you could imagine. And then with that, we get a warning for both of these. This is so common that the React team created a package on NPM that we can use, and I'm going to pull it in from unpackage. So we'll paste from unpackage. So we'll paste that right in here, and it's called prop types. So with that, it actually creates a global variable here for us called prop types when we're using it as a script like that. And it has the same API that we just created. What foresight. So we'll save that. That we just created. What foresight. So we'll save that. We'll get a script like that. And it has the same API that we just created. What foresight. So we'll save that. We'll get a refresh. And things are working a little differently. Before we were getting a warning for both the first name and the last name, but now we're just getting one for the first name. And the reason for that is that prop types by default are not required. And so because the last name wasn't provided, we're not getting the last name validated in this case. And that works out nicely. My dog is freaking out about something. Yeah, it's just the guys who are working on our cement came to the door. Means that it's possible they either need something and my wife can help with it, or yeah, they're talking to her right now. So they're probably okay. He's probably just giving her instructions. I think they might be done, but yeah, I may need to run off and help with something if my wife texts me or something. So we'll see. I'm kind of thinking that they're done. I'm gonna peek out there. 1 second. I don't know. I don't do concrete. It looks like they could be done, but it looks like they also could not be done. So the last name validated in this case. And that works out nicely if you provide a default for the last name, like if we were to say unknown here. But here, but if you want to make sure that it's required, then you can add a .is required on both of these and save that, and now you'll get a warning saying that the first name is the wrong type and the last name is required but wasn't provided. Let's also take a required but wasn't provided. But wasn't provided. Let's also take a look at what one concern you might have is that this adds quite a bit more code that React needs to run every time it renders your component. It's frozen. Which might slow down your application in some situations. And I haven't saved it recently. The production version of React does not validate the prop types. Dang it. But maybe we'll have to finish watching the whole thing. One reasonable concern you might have about prop types is that it adds a fair amount of code that needs to be run whenever React is rendering your components, which may impact performance. So let's take a look at the production.minified version of React. That's annoying. Turn it off. Except I can still hear it. Getting those warnings, and that's because in production, prop types. Dang it! I don't want to applied. I could force quit it, but I don't want to because I have some stuff I haven't saved yet. You can actually get a Babel plugin that will remove the prop types. I might be able to still recover it though. And that plugin, come on. And that plugin is called Babel Plugin Transform Remove Prop Types. And so you could install that and use that in your production build, or many toolkits install and use this by default. If you want to learn more about the prop types that are available, you can go to the prop types page on NPM, and there are a lot of different prop types that you can supply. And there are a lot of different types that you can use for your components to validate that people are using your components properly. Come on. Now we're going to do the review. Oh, actually, what it's doing now is I think I had this screen capture. At the very end, it's like 2 minutes or something. So it's like 2 minutes of nothing. I don't want to lose my work. It wasn't that much work. I do a pretty good job of saving as I go, but that's a total bummer. Gonna a little bit of cleanup of my desktop. I don't need this anymore. In fact, I don't need that at all. So that's cool. Oh, and I close it. Come on. Nope. Wait for it. I'm going to say that's lost. So we're going to force quit this screen flow. And we're going to try again. Screen flow. Hey, sweet. Recover. Boy, wasted a lot of time. Waiting for that. Okay, cool. So now we are so close. Bring that back. Okay. Is the wrong type, and the last name is required but wasn't provided. Let's also take a look at what I'm going to save really quick. Take a look at what one concern you might have. One concern but wasn't provided. One concern you might have. Okay. I want this video. Look at what right there. One concern you might have is that this adds quite a bit more code that React needs to run every time it renders your component, which might slow down your application in some situations. But the production version of React does not in some situations. But the production version of React does not validate the prop types. But one reasonable concern you might... Ah, man, I knew it. I backed up. Production you might have provided. One reasonable concern you might have about prop type. Now let's just get rid of that. It's fine. This will skip from here to here. Won't be that. Is required but wasn't provided. One reasonable concern you might have about prop types is that it adds a fair amount of code that needs to be run whenever React is rendering your components, which may impact performance. So let's take rendering your components, which may impact performance. So let's take a look at some. Just see what happens here. Rendering your components, which may impact performance. So let's take a look at some. May impact performance. So let's take a look at the production. Production.minified version of React. And we'll notice that everything is working exactly as it was before, but we're no longer getting those warnings. And that's because in production, prop types are not applied. And if you want to take, okay, come on. Prop types are not applied. And if you want to take things a step further, then you can actually get a Babel plugin that will remove the prop types from your source code for production. And that plugin and that plugin for production. And that plugin is called Babel Plugin Transform Remove Prop Types. And so you could install that and use that in your production build, or many toolkits install and use this by default. If you want to learn more If you want to learn more about the prop types that are available, you can go to the prop types page on NPM, and there are a lot of different prop types that you can supply. And there are a lot of different types that you can use for your components to validate that people are using your components properly. Yes. Validate that people are using your components for your components to validate that people are using your components properly. There. Cool. Okay, so coming back out, grab this guy. Now it's 0.7, like magic. Okay, let's make sure that comes all the way out, because that would be funny. Look at the very top. Oh, it's 0.6. He's been lying to us this whole time. All right, save that, export it to the Beginner's Guide to React 2020. Boom, exporting. Just gonna grab a couple more of these. Okay, my wife is probably picking up my daughter at this point, giving me about 20 minutes or so of recording time. And what that means is I want to take advantage of that time because I don't get it a whole lot. And I'm going to record this. What that means is I need to resize my screen because, yeah, it's not the right size for recording. I need it to be 1280 by 720. So we're going to run record. That's going to, well, yeah, it'll resize my screen, but that also messes things up from a OBS perspective thing. So let me see if I can get this. There we go, and then we'll put it to screen. Oh, nope, that's not gonna do it. Okay, we're gonna just do this. Okay, and that down here. Doesn't need to be perfect, but sure you could. Something like that. Okay, that's pretty good. Not perfect, but good enough. Yeah, very good. Okay, sweet. So now I'm on dynamic forms. I want to full screen this guy. And I need to get my browser sync thing running again. So there we go. With that, refresh. There we are on, oh, OBS. Where'd you go? Oh, okay. We're still streaming. Okay. And we've got, I just got a notification and oh, that was because my thing was exported. Sweet. Close you now. Close this thing. And fine. Very good. We've got our username form, and in this one, actually we can take this, copy all this, paste it all here, and I'm gonna open up Chrome. In my other tab, or in my other window over here, so I can review that. Okay, good. And then I just need to think about the use case we're trying to support. We want to do some dynamic error messaging. We're going to show an error. We add a change handler to the input. We're tracking the username value. Oh, you know what? I just realized. Let's go back. Since we're tracking the username, we don't need this anymore. Do that. And get rid of that. Joe submit. There we go. Do that. Again, this stuff is in my way. Okay. And yeah, so that's good. Let's add all that stuff. Commit. Simplify. There we go. Refresh this guy. There we go. Great. So now we're going to go back here, grab all this stuff. We're building upon what we had in the last lesson. And I'm going to say, okay, let's say that a username can only be lowercase. Otherwise, we'll show an error and we'll disable the submit button. So to do this, we need to track the username value. Okay, cool. I think I know what I'm going to do. Let's say we wanted to make it so that only lowercase characters could be typed in here, and if you type uppercase characters, then that's going to not be submittable. We could add some validation. You gotta be kidding. I just got a something. Okay, I gotta stop this. Hold on a second. We'll close this. Probably could have survived, but this is actually really important. I need to get done really quick. Shouldn't take long. Okay. Oh, and I just got another text. My goodness, so many things happening all at once. Okay. Great. Then that off. That. Okay, great. Now we're ready to go. Let's say that this username form cannot have uppercase characters. They can only have lowercase characters. Well, we could show the user an error when they hit the submit button, but it would be a lot better user experience if we display an error message as they're making changes to this input field if they change it to something that's not allowed. So we need to know what the user is typing as they're typing it, not just as they submit it. So we're going to add an onChange handler right here. And here we'll call this handle change. And we'll make a function, handle change. And that will take the event. And then we can use event.target. And because the target of this handle change event is our input, then event.target is going to be the input, .value is going to be the username. But we need to store that username somewhere and trigger a re-render of the username form so that it displays the error message if the username is typed incorrectly. So let's go ahead and add some state to this username form. We'll say username and set username equals react use state, and we'll initialize that to an empty string. And then in here, we'll call set username with the event target value. And then we no longer need to get the username from the form input elements because we're always going to be keeping this username up to date with whatever the user is specifying. So we can get rid of that. And now this username is just referencing that. Next, let's go ahead and determine whether this is lowercase by saying username equals username.toLowerCase. So if it's equal to its to lowercase version of itself, then we know that it is lowercase. And we know that we have an error if it is lowercase. If it's not lowercase. If it is lowercase, then we'll just say the error is null. Otherwise, we'll say the username must be lowercase. And then we just need to display that error message. So we'll copy that, come down here, and make a div here with a style color red, just for the fun of it. And we'll put the error message right in there. And then we can also make the button disabled if there's an error. Disabled accepts a Boolean, so we'll just say Boolean error. And so if error is truthy, then we'll pass a true value for disabled. And if there is no error or it's falsy, then we'll pass a false value for disabled. So let's save that. We'll get a refresh, and if we type an uppercase character, then we'll get username must be lowercase. The submit button is disabled. And if we type a lowercase character, then we don't get any problem until we get an uppercase character in there. So if you ever need to know exactly what the user is typing as they're typing it, then the onChange event can be, then you can use the onChange event to get access to the value of the input and update that in the state of your component. Then you can use that changes to that value will trigger a re-render of your component, and that state value will be whatever the user has typed, allowing us to create this error message based on whether the username is lowercase. And then we use that error message, and then we display that error message here in red in this div, and we disable the submit button if there is an error message. Okay, that was good. Save this thing. Here, I've shown this before, but what I normally do once I finish recording is I set mix to mono, because it only is one channel, so I may as well just make it one channel. And then smooth volume levels, and that'll just normalize the volume. And then we'll save this, and we'll stick this in ScreenFlow Beginner's Guide. And this is 20 dynamic forms. Save that, close it, and move on to the next. So 21, and let's, I think from here we build on from this one. We'll save that. Go here. Go back up here, 21, controlled forms. And I type all uppercase, and it's not supposed to show any error message. It's just not supposed to allow me to type the wrong thing. That's the next step here, showing why controlled forms can be useful. Okay, cool. And let me just review the code here in my finished version. We still are maintaining the state, but we're no longer going to do any error stuff. Just get rid of all the error stuff. And then when we set the username, we'll set it to lowercase, and we'll add a value prop to our input. Okay. It's great that we disallow users from typing uppercase characters because username can only be lowercase, but wouldn't it, or actually, yeah. It's great that we're able to display an error message if there's an uppercase character and we disable the submit button, but it would be even cooler if we didn't allow the user to type uppercase. But it would be even cooler if we didn't allow the user to type uppercase characters in the first place. So if they try to type an uppercase character, we just lowercase it for them. And we could do that pretty easily just by saying set username dot to uppercase dot to lowercase. And now the username that's stored inside of our state is going to be lowercase. And so we can do uppercase wherever. When we hit submit, that's all going to be lowercase, but it's not exactly a great user experience to be able to type something here and have the end result be different from what I submitted. And so what we're going to do, and so what we need to do is control the input value to be exactly the same thing that I have in my state. Because I'm changing the input value, because I'm programmatically changing the value that I get from the input to set the value that I store in my state. And if I want to keep those two in sync, then I need to control the input's value. And to do this, it's pretty simple. We simply add a value prop here, and we'll pass in the username. And as soon as we pass this value prop onto an input, we're communicating to React that React no longer needs to manage the state of this input, and now we are going to control that state, and it should not change that value to anything other than what we enter in here, which includes whatever the user is typing. So if I save this, and I come back up here, and I try to type an uppercase, and I try to type an uppercase string, that's not going to work. No. It's going to lowercase my string for me automatically. So now it's impossible for me to type something that's incorrect. Now it might be useful to have some sort of info thing here that indicates why I can't type uppercase characters in here, but hopefully you get the general idea that if you ever need to make the input value something different from what the user is actually typing, then you can do so by passing a value prop. Let's go ahead and clean some stuff up here because we no longer need to display an error because it's impossible to make an error now. We'll get rid of that submit here. We'll get rid of the is lowercase and error right here, and we can save that, and everything looks great. You can't tell, but I'm holding down the shift key. I promise I'm trying to type something uppercase. But it's not showing, but the value in the input isn't uppercase because I'm setting the username to a lowercase version of what's being typed in that input's value. And then when React re-renders this component, the username, which is all the lowercase characters, is getting passed into the value of the input, and React is setting that input's value to the lowercase version of what it was. There we go. That one was good. I like it when they're quick because it means I don't have to edit as much. So that was 4 minutes. It's probably going to be maybe 2.5 when I'm done. Okay, so saving that. This one is 21, controlled forms, save. Oh, and actually, I don't think that I did my audio stuff for that one. Oh, I did. Very good. Cool. So we are getting close. 22. Error boundaries. Okay, this one I didn't teach in the original. So this one's going to be a little different. Sweet. I love it when I pull something back, change it, and then I work through my lesson, and I get to the end of it, and it looks exactly like what I'd planned it to look. Sometimes I'll like change variable names and stuff, and then I have to update it, and it's super annoying. All right. Number 22. Okay, so this one's going to be tricky because at the end of it, I'm going to be like, don't bother. Well, okay, so the tricky thing is I am not teaching class components. But this is the one thing that function components cannot do. I don't know why. I'm not sure why. I'm pretty yeah, I don't know why. What would be cool is if React was like, okay, React.error error boundary, and then I have my function component, and it accepts props and error. Ta-da! There we go. And now I have a error boundary. That would be nice. But nope, we don't have anything like that. So, yeah, so this is what I'm stuck with. And what I basically am going to do is I'm going to say, you can create React components with, or modern React components are created with functions, but but there is still legacy support for class components. Or I'll say, but there is support for legacy class components. 1 second. Oh, it sounds like my family's home. My daughter's going to come down and read with me. So I'm actually going to stop right here. This was a good time. Thanks for watching. I might stream some more afterward, after I visit with my daughter about how her day was and stuff. And yeah, probably won't do any more recording for the rest of the day. Maybe tonight, but we'll see. So thanks for watching, hanging out with me, keeping me accountable. I hope you have an awesome day. And yeah, that's all. See ya.